Hi everybody, I am TheReadingTortie and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be doing the book review for The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. I've been meaning to do this review for quite some time. I haven't gotten around to it for no actually really good reason. And right now I'm still a little disheveled because my room isn't exactly organized the way I want, so my table's still missing. So it's going to be in my hands the entire time. So this was published in 2003 by Crown Publishing Group, and it is a nonfiction set in the 1890s during the building of the World's Fair in Chicago. The movie rights were bought, and Leonardo DiCaprio will be starring in it as H.H. Holmes, which is going to be interesting. I believe that he has the capabilities to do anything and everything under the sun, but I never quite imagined Leonardo DiCaprio as H.H. Holmes. So, Devil in the White City. This book is a little bit different than most of the books I review. Most of the books that I review are fiction, historical fiction, and things of that nature. So this is the first nonfiction that maybe it's the first nonfiction? I think it is, that I review on my channel. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. There aren't any real characters, there aren't any real plots or settings. There is simply the telling of a historical event, and the book is pretty much a judge of, was it told in a very good way or a very bad way? Was it boring? Was it entertaining? I'm telling you guys now, it's actually really good, even with the near excessive amount of detail that was very meticulously and very lovingly put into this book, and that I completely appreciate, but it was a bit boggy sometimes, so fair warning. Going into the book, I also didn't quite know what to expect because I had a couple of people tell me that they had to put down the book because it bored them, they lagged. Because of the title, people seem to be misled into believing that this book is almost exclusively about H.H. Holmes. That is not the case. This book treats the situation surrounding H.H. Holmes very importantly, I guess. I'm not Englishing right now correctly, but The Devil in the White City is about the World's Fair first and foremost. Every other event, character, and occurrence that surrounds the World's Fair is a secondary character and not an accessory or an afterthought, but it's just part of the World's Fair. So this book would have been about the World's Fair with or without H.H. Holmes, because simply by the World's Fair being built when it was in the city that it was already had a heck of a lot of story to go on. So I didn't know quite what to expect. There were parts that it lagged on simply because, as mentioned earlier, the excruciating, meticulous amount of detail. Erik Larson did so much research. I believe he knew every single nut, bolt, cranny, wrench that did or did not go into the entire World's Fair, and I'm pretty sure he could list it out for you off the top of his head down to the precise unit of each thing that was used for every single building and every single attraction. But as the layperson, it was a bit overwhelming sometimes, so I could see where people would think that it lagged. However, as a writer, I was completely astounded by how well paced and well executed it all was. So I really, really appreciated this for the detail and for the masterful pacing of the book. Okay, so The Devil in the White City. To understand H.H. Holmes, one of the biggest things so I'm a serial killer buff, which I'm sure nobody's surprised about. One of the biggest things is, oh my gosh, how did this guy get away with so much stuff? Is it because of the castle? Is it because of the times? Like, what was happening? The only reason that I wasn't as frustrated as everybody else about the fact that this is more about the World's Fair than it is about H.H. Holmes is because without the backdrop of the World's Fair, it would not make any real sense as to how H.H. Holmes realistically got away with what he did. So Chicago in the 1890s was an absolutely dangerous, hazardous place to live. You died at the drop of a hat. You look at the train funny and it'll just derail a little bit just to knock you out. Be like, oh man, you okay? Sorry about that. And it just continues on its merry way. That's the world you were living in. So it's treacherous, dangerous. People went missing just for giggles. And so for all of these women that were moving into the city for the first time, that were leaving their homes without any protection for the first time, for them to go missing was probably not anything surprising, considering seasoned people were dying in the hazardous work environments that they were put through. So I can see how during the commotion and the chaos of the World's Fair, of America trying not to be outdone by Paris and the Eiffel Tower, would be so preoccupied with this that they would not really see the disappearances of these missing girls that may or may not be connected, not to mention the police force was really in its infancy. So it's not as, such a well-oiled machine as it is today where, oh, something suspicious happened and you research that, 10 ways to Sunday and make sure that nothing sketchy is going on, but, maybe they have the same library card 50 years ago and that's suspicious. So back in the day, it's like, oh, well, they were working, so this probably makes sense, kind of, sort of, but we're busy with the World's Fair because there was, strikes going on and riots, and it was a very volatile time that H.H. Holmes really had the opportunity, and he made the most of this horrific opportunity. There is also the fact that H.H. Holmes is not exactly America's first serial killer. He's the first documented one, simply because the previous ones weren't as meticulously detailed as H.H. Holmes. So just because H.H. Holmes had more of a paper trail doesn't necessarily mean that he's the first serial killer in America. This is also the time when the world is starting to be connected for the first time. People in Chicago, Illinois are now aware of Jack the Ripper, killing women and prostitutes in Chapel Hill in London. And this is the first time in history that it's so easy to really get information from somewhere half a world away. So I don't think that people were really aware of the fact that, man, there's these individuals that just like killing people because it's fun and there's no real rhyme or reason for it. Not to the normal mind. I'm sure in their mind there's a rhyme and a reason, but that's neither here nor there. So I don't think anybody was really suspecting that someone as charismatic as H.H. Holmes would be worse than Jack the Ripper, essentially. So there's the novelty of the serial killer. There's the novelty of the times. There's the novelty of the World's Trade Fair. So there's just so much going on. People missing here and there, and how thoroughly he went through to cover his tracks really wouldn't attract a lot of attention until the big explosion, essentially, where it all just blows up in his face and there's no way to deny it. And then you start to dig and you start to follow his trail throughout America, and you're like, oh my god, this guy literally, there's death following him. That's shady. And then we get to, oh my god, this guy is a crazy person. So there's just so much going on. And if this book had been only about H.H. Holmes, I think that we still would have had a lot of questions of, how did this guy get away with what he did? And it's because of the times. It was just ripe for disaster, for terrorizing people, and he exploited it. And he was very charismatic, and, to the very end, a very charismatic sociopath and a narcissist. So, this entire event, the book, is like a parade. And we're not just a bystander that gets to see the parade pass by. We're on top and we have the bird's eye view of everything taking place with all of the, twists and turns that may or may not take. And with all the most unsuspecting twists and turns that alone nobody would have suspected. One of the characters is this guy that very obsessively writes like postcards to people. Nobody suspected he would have like turned out to go murder the mayor, but he did. And it's just so almost haunting to see how something so minor that would have been overlooked is very important and changed so much. So it was just really well done, and it was a very disturbing, lucid feeling while I was listening to this audiobook. The narrator was also on point. Loved him. Something I really liked was that I was pretty much seeing what modern America is now. So I was seeing the father of Walt Disney. I was seeing stuff that's so common right now and is like household names being created specifically for the World's Fair. And it was really surreal to me for them to be talking about this stuff like it's new, like it's never been done, but it's something very common. So seeing the folklore of America as we know it today be created and be born was really amazing to me. And I got really excited and giddy when, you know, there was a historical figure there that is a now legend. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's them before they were anything great, and that's them before they were anything big. And just to see the beginnings of everybody was really, really amazing. So I like that. That's honestly about it. This is actually a pretty short review, simply because it's so different. It's not, I can't do my, regular character setting, plot resolution, conflict spiel. But it was really, really good. Pros and cons. Pros. You will not find a better told, more detailed, non-boring written account of the World's Fair and everything revolving around the World's Fair and everybody that you did or did not know and probably did not suspect that was involved in the World's Fair. Con. It can bog you down a bit. Like, once you're talking about the 1,743 bolts that go into one arm of the Ferris wheel, which was really cool in my opinion. I'm like, oh, the Ferris wheel, this is how it came about. It gets a little tedious. And when they start essentially counting boxcars and train cars of materials being sent to build X building of the World's Fair or X part of some other thing that is not the Ferris wheel, it gets a little bogged down. However, it's pretty well paced. You kind of get a little like, oh, I'm falling asleep, but then it picks right back up. So, like that. And for anybody going into this book, don't let the title fool you. It says, The Devil in the White City, Murder, Magic, and Madness at the Fair That Changed America. This is not about H.H. Holmes. It's not. This is about the World's Fair first, and everything else second, revolving around the World's Fair. And it's not like a tier, like a hierarchy, like it has to be the World's Fair and then something else. It's just all on an equal playing field, and because it's on an equal playing field, the World's Fair is an enormous undertaking. So H.H. Holmes is not front and center. So if you're coming into this book wanting to learn exclusively about H.H. Holmes with the rest of the world as the accessory to H.H. Holmes, I believe that you will be disappointed and you will find that the book lags. However, if you come into this book with the accurate expectation of the World's Fair and then everything else revolving around the World's Fair, I think you will get you'll be able to better appreciate the magnitude and just the colossus that this book is, and it's not all that long. So, fantastic feat of nonfiction, in my opinion. I don't read a whole heck of a lot of nonfiction, not because I don't like it, it's just I prefer scary stuff in historical fiction. So please let me know what you thought. I know that there's a lot of amazing discussion going on about The Devil in the White City, so If you guys want to talk about it, please talk to me about it. I don't really have a question about The Devil in the White City. What did you guys think? What was your experience? Did you find it lagged? What drew you to the book? Because it was my friend actually that recommended it to me, and my library finally had the audiobook. So please let me know if there are any quotes in here that you guys like, because I know there's a couple quotes that really resonated with me. One in particular is at the end, where I'm not entirely sure who, but he says he ends up losing his fortune that he made at the World's Fair and being broke, and he says, well, I started with nothing. It's okay that I have nothing again. I broke even. And I think that is one of the best ways to look at life, that even though you might lose everything someday, we started with nothing at one point, you know, we just gotta start up again. So I thought that was really cool. But that's all I got for this review. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know if you guys are excited about the movie, because I sure am. And let's have a discussion about The Devil in the White City. So that's it for today, and be safe, and I'll catch you guys next time.